Okay, it's take two. Take two. Good to see you guys. Money B, Super T 72. Oh, yo, man. Sorry about that first stream. Not sure what happened. You
You got
can
that
blame.
Boost Mobile. That's what you got, Alex.
Yeah, I'm
Boost Mobile out there in the woods.
not exactly sure. But anyway, so we're starting over. So here's what we're gonna do. We're talking today about the press availabilities today from Coach Flood, from Coach PK, and from Coach Banks. So the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and Texas special teams coach, respectively. Got a whole ton to get to. We started out talking about Kyle Flood. And one of the first things that we said is he mentioned 6 to 7 offensive linemen this year as Texas enters fall camp tomorrow are guys that he thinks that he can play. And so we got to talk about who those guys are, and I think it's pretty obvious, right? That it's your starting five, and it's Cole Hudson, and it is apparently Malik Agbo. Right. And, who he mentioned, a guy that I had projected incorrectly. It looks like he's going to be playing left tackle instead of left guard. And he said that NATO's certainly coming along. He mentioned Connor Robertson, all these guys. But then, he did mention later, he's, do you feel comfortable with them? He's like, well, he said, they've been in competitive situations. Does that mean that I feel comfortable with them? I don't know, but we did hear Sark say, man, especially through this first portion of the season, minus the Michigan game, they're going to try and get as many guys playing as possible. I think they're going to move some of these dudes around, and we're going to get a look at these guys. But I do think that as far as the direct backups, I think they're the same as we went over last night in the depth chart show.
If we just, we got a lot of topics to get through, so I just want to put an exclamation point on this one. 6, 7, 8 is what he brought up. We went through the depth chart yesterday. You had a list of a bunch of these guys. We've talked about Gooseby. We've talked about Cole Hudson, Connor Robertson, kind of Brennan Baker, some of those names, Agbo. 6, 7, 8. After Banks, after Connor, after Majors, after Campbell, after Cam Williams, who is 6, 7, and 8? Do we start with Cole Hudson? Is that 6?
Yes, I think that's 6. And then
Agbo, because of the flexibility, has he become 7?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I haven't really thought much about Malik Agbo, but I mean, he did play a lot last year. I don't think it's Gooseby. I don't think it's Baker, right? I think it's Hudson, and he mentioned Connor Robertson, and I think he kind of mentioned Malik Agbo, and he mentioned NATO just in passing, saying guy who's certainly improved, right? So I think that those are the ones. What?
Certainly
that's a good catch. Yes, he didn't say certainly improved. He said certainly coming along, which definitely carries a different kind of context, right? I felt like my internet was kind of coming along a little bit earlier. It was certainly moving along. I'm not sure it was the internet, Cody. I think it might have been Restream, but a good carpenter never blames his tools. So just gotta continue on and move on.
Speaking of numbers, let's go to receiver. We're on offense already. The next thing that I wrote down was Flood talking about the wide receiver chemistry, and everyone's talking about the receiver depth, which we've talked about. They talked about our House Divided today, and he brought up a number. We talk about 6, 7, 8 offensive linemen. He brought up the number of 9 wide receivers are going to take reps with the first and second teams at the beginning of training camp. And he basically said, we've never been there as a team. 9 wide receivers, not 7, not 6, 9.
Yeah, I mean, that's too many, right? It's because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, there are 11 on scholarship. So it's like which 2 that aren't on scholarship are going to be left out, right? We know the 6. We know Isaiah Bond, DeAndre Moore, Jonte Cook, Ryan Wingo, Silas Bolden, Matthew Golden, right? That's 6. Now, if they're going to be 9, who are they between Parker Livingstone, Freddie Dubose Jr., Ryan Niblett, and Aaron Butler?
Oh, we know Niblett's 7. That's what we do know.
Niblett is 7. I mean, if it were up to me, Parker Livingstone would be 8.
I think so too.
And I think the other one's Butler. I think Thomas Quinn in the chat has it just right. Just because, man, look, unless Freddie Dubose comes in and just does something that guy was a ghost for during spring camp. I think he was hurt at the beginning, but then he came back and he really didn't play much at all. So I would say that's kind of I would imagine that's sort of how it is right now. But yeah, whenever you look at 9, I find it a little bit hard to believe that, given the fact that you have those first 6 that we're having so much trouble projecting and then things that is the 2 deep, right? Texas is they're an 11 personnel team for a whole lot of the time, and whenever they are, and you only have 3 wide receivers put out there, you have like 2 sets of 3 that are like really good, right? So it doesn't seem, I don't know, to inject 3 more. I'm not sure that's going to necessarily be the case. It feels like one will be first team, one will be second team, one will be third team. I'm not sure that all those guys are going to be rotating in with the 2s.
Well, that's what he said. He said they're all going to be rotating with the 1s and 2s at the beginning of camp. He didn't say, at the end of camp. He just said the beginning of camp, they're going to give these guys a fair shake. That's kind of how I interpreted that. And it makes sense just based on what those players bring to the table. Like we talked last week kind of about the size of these players vis-a-vis Michael Terry in this 2025 class, 6'3", 215. There's only one player on the roster right now that compares in size to Michael Terry, and that's Ryan Wingo at 6'2", 205. And next after that is Parker Livingstone at 6'3", 195. So Livingstone brings that different piece. And it would make sense that they're like, maybe they want to try and see what he looks like in the red zone.
He's very fast too, right? Yeah.
He's just a different athlete, right? So see what he looks like. And then also Aaron Butler, when you look at him versus Silas, and even to a certain extent, Jonte, as far as a speed weapon, like those things align. So it would make sense to be like, all right, we want to see this guy all run in similar roles and opportunities. And I don't think it's maybe in the context of, we want to see Aaron Butler with the first team because we want to see Aaron Butler with the first team. It's because we want to see Aaron Butler.
What if we see that tomorrow?
We want to see Aaron Butler looks like if, I can't remember if it was Flood or if it was PK that brought it up. But he goes, I think it was Flood, right? He goes, 2003 at Delaware, I had this offensive line. We played 16 games. All 5 guys played every single game. But you also hear the horror stories where you have 4 deep at center and the first 3 are injured and you have to worry about that 4th one playing. The same can be thought about at receivers. Like, we have 9 deep. We want to know if we have 9 deep that we can potentially trust in a game setting, or if we have 7 deep that we can trust in a game setting. So they got to put Butler out there against Manny Muhammad and just see what he looks like in the setting of the offense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it for sure. Alan Makeda in the chat. We're not on the defense yet, but I think it's an interesting question. Do y'all fear that what happened to Harold Perkins from year 1 to year 2 will happen with Ant Hill? I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about. Maybe just not having quite the year 2 that everybody had hoped. But I think those two are kind of different players. Doesn't Ant Hill have 15 pounds on him? And it feels like it just
and 3 inches.
Yeah, they're kind of different dudes, right? Whenever we get to PK, we'll talk about what he said about Anthill's transition from last year. And I think the plan for Anthill this year to kind of play him in what Nansen says is like the Jacob Manu role from Arizona. That's not what he said today, but that's what I've sort of heard. And if that's the case, man, Manu was uber productive just because the positions that he was put in. Imagine that when you have an uber athlete like Anthony Hill getting put in those kinds of same situations.
I do just want to hit this really quickly because we heard at the SEC Media Days, we heard him talk, Harold Perkins, and we also talk to some other people in NFL circles talking about him as a player. We also heard Brian Kelly comment on Harold Perkins, and Harold Perkins was a pure rusher. Now they're having to transform to a linebacker because he's going to have to play linebacker at the NFL level to succeed because he's simply too small, too light. And he's never played linebacker before. Ant Hill, on the other hand, has played back there. And even though there was comments today from PK that we'll get to about him maybe not being the best linebacker in the world, he's much more inept. How did PK phrase it? He basically said he's a nose for the football. Like, he's gonna make the tackle, he's gonna get there. That's like, it's just two different things as far as what Perkins could do and what Hill could do. Perkins wasn't built to play linebacker, so that's why it's taken him an extra year to translate. That's what
At one point last year, PK told Anthony Hill, the quote was, "You're a hell of a football player, but you're not a good linebacker." I'm not sure I'd want to say that to Ant Hill's face, man. I might end up with my face punched in.
He goes, but it was a positive comment because he's got a nose for the football. Like
he said that he was saying that to him, like, earlier last year when he's trying to get him up with the playbook, and getting these guys up with a playbook is something that really gets hit on by PK, and certainly, man, it gets hit on a bunch by Jeff Banks. Some of the other stuff from Kyle Flood about, he was asked if are you gonna kind of maybe lean away from the run a little bit, or like, is this a team, with the, you have all these good players and stuff like that. And he's like, man, it's he just says no, like, with this deal, we have to be balanced. And you never know whenever a guy like, Bijan or Roshan leave, it's like, what are you going to do? Well, there comes Brooks. Now we got a couple guys that we really like, and all the rest of it. I thought the other thing that was interesting as far as the running backs, because they said, who's going to be the lead back, and of course he's not going to answer that. He's not going to answer that question to the media. But what you can get out of it is, he said that, as far as in pass pro, he said that there's no substitute for experience, and that, having a running backs coach that actually comes from the NFL is like the greatest gift that you can give to a college offensive line coach, because of how much in the NFL, dude, those quarterbacks, I mean, we see these quarterbacks, dude, Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, man, they've been getting $220 million checks this last week. You got to protect those guys. And it's just like, they're within the building and at the facility. It's an organizational, like, mantra, man. You, like, keep that guy upright. Whenever you're kind of steeped in that kind of culture and you come down to the college level, it's like that really translates to those dudes. And he says that they're taking it in really well, and, kind of giving a hat tip to both. But he did mention that, he said, but, I wouldn't say it's just those two, man. Like, he also said, we also have Trey Wisner, who's just had a really good offseason. So one thing I guess that I can say I was right about with the depth chart stuff was putting Wisner above either of those two freshmen.
I liked everything he said about the backs. Obviously, talking about Baxter and Blue kind of out of both sides of his mouth, saying they're both great. They're both going to split the carries. They're both going to get opportunities. And like you said, he brought up Wisner actually pretty unsolicited. Kind of just like the nerd of the scout in me took away a bit and just kind of like hit another checkbox in my brain when he brought up the importance of having a running back coach that has been and or played in the NFL level, and how much they stress pass protection at the NFL level, and how important, like, he didn't say like how important coach choice is, but he basically said how important coach choice is to this backfield, and how as an offensive line coach and as a offensive coordinator, you don't even have to think about or worry about the running backs in pass pro. You just know they're going to be good. I thought that was a very positive, very kind note, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, like that's in the NFL. That's the mantra of the organization. You pay these guys all the money, you have to protect them, right? So yeah, it's a big deal that he's saying that they're coming along in that regard. They asked about they asked all these coaches. There's one guy that's going to be writing a story, I guess, about how they're going to be altering their schedule for preparations for a possible 16-game schedule, or altering their preparations for it. I think Coach Flood gave the most adamant answer, and he said, like, look, you got to, he talked to, like Cody mentioned earlier, about playing the Delaware guys, 16 games, all this stuff. But he says, you got to get out there and hit, dude. Like, you got to get out there and hit. You got to, like, he said, Sark will know what the team, he says it's different from team to team, but you can't go, like, you can't go out there and not hit. So I think it was interesting for him to say, he's like, man, they say all gas, no brakes. And, I guess they mean it for practice too. Did you take anything away from the fact that he wouldn't name a backup left tackle or right tackle? He just kind of said he wouldn't give an answer. He said that, there's Gooseby, there's Agbo, there's Baker, there's Kojo, Chapman. They've all worked in those spots. He said 7, 8, or maybe 9 who've played competitively in games, which isn't really true. I mean, there've been a couple of these guys that have played very minimally in games. I think he might be considering, like, NATO's experience to be playing considerably to get up to something like 9. But I think that I can't imagine going out there tomorrow and not seeing Trevor Gooseby as the backup left tackle. I would be shocked to go out there and see 67 Malik Agbo as the backup left. But it was interesting to hear him mention Agbo so very much after playing so much jumbo tight end last year.
It wouldn't shock you though if they're splitting snaps, right? It might shock you if it's purely Agbo, but if they were splitting opportunities, just based on what we heard today, maybe yesterday you would say that, but not today. After hearing that, I don't think. If you were to go in tomorrow and it's like Banks and then it's Gooseby snap 1, Agbo snap 2, Gooseby snap 3, 4, Agbo snap 5. Like, I don't think that would shock you as much now after hearing this Agbo thing.
No, I mean, well, no, not after hearing it. Without hearing it, I would have been gobsmacked. I think Gooseby's really good though. He was asked how the DTs look like. He's got to go against the defensive tackles in the spring and stuff. He obviously monitors those guys. And he said, look, he's like, some of the new faces we haven't seen, they haven't seen Lole. He didn't mention it by name, but that's who he's talking about. Lole, Norton, these dudes. I guess he hadn't seen Melvin Hills, but he said that, but Collins is a really good player. He said these guys are different than Sweat and Murph. With Sweat, you had the size. With Murph, you just had the, all the power and stuff like that. But he said, we'll see some of those new faces and we'll have a better feel of it. But definitely the AC Alfred Collins is a really good player. No mention of Vernon Broughton. He kept on saying Collins was a really good player. Not sure what to take away from that. He also talked a little bit about the edge rushers. He was asked about those guys, and he just said what he saw out of them, and it wasn't much. It's just been spring, but he said those two. I think those two means Simmons and Moore and Simmons. He just says, like, going against guys like that, going against impressive guys like that, it just makes you better. And he thinks it's going to help Kelvin Banks a lot, that the edge rush has gotten better and better and better every single year. So those were some of the things. I also had the stuff about how you replace Jay Witt. Did you take anything away from that?
I mean,
in Whittington, he just
honest, I heard. I think it was Kirk Bowles that asked the question, and it was like, it was kind of a fugly question, and I kind of tuned it out, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So basically what he said is like, man, he says, you don't replace players, you replace production. He's like,
there you go. Yeah.
Can we get the production of a Jay Witt? Like, we're going to need to replace the production, but dude, this is just another reminder of how much people love Jordan Whittington. He's just like, but if you're asking me about the person, like, you don't replace Jay Witt. you don't. Just the grit, the team first, the guy he was, the person he is. Like, you don't. He's like, that's just. He said, asking me who's going to replace that. That's totally, like, he has no idea. He said somebody's going to have to step up and do it, because to be the production's one thing, but the person that Jay Witt was. I know we don't have old Rodolfo in the chat right now, or I haven't seen him at least, but. Man, for all of his hate for Jay Witt, man, dude, everybody just loves that guy.
Before we go to defense, can we jump to Banks really quickly just for his tight end thoughts?
Sure, yeah, because it's kind of still on, because we're still kind of talking offense. So yeah, we can talk. Let's just go to Banks second, and we'll finish with defense, because there is some. There's also some punt return stuff, and there's also some definitely some juicy Michael Taft stuff that I just love. A lot of Michael Taft stuff.
Juicy.
Yeah, but where do you want to go about the?
I want to go to Washington. We obviously talked about his weight gain. He explained it as 215 to 248, which I thought it was 235 to 248, or maybe 225 to 248, but he says 215 to 248. So that's a 33-pound gain since he's been on campus. And basically said, like, if he can get the mentals right, this guy's going to be a star. And like, we can, so that's one that he's also got some comments on Nyblack, but Juan Davis, Gunnar Helm, that whole tight end room, I think, is turning into, and maybe by the end of camp becomes a pretty interesting storyline, especially if Washington kind of progresses like he has. I mean, he was on campus for a mere couple of weeks, and he had 4 receptions and 4 targets at the end of the spring game. I know it was the end of the spring game last quarter, last couple series, but That's a pretty big feat for a freshman that's on
He was
campus.
getting peppered, man. If he wouldn't have gotten hurt or just a little bit banged up, he probably would have had 2 more targets on that same series.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, as fast as he got into the offense and just like got opportunities, and then over the course of the last couple of months gained this weight and matured, maybe we'll see his body. You'll see his body tomorrow when you go out there. You go, whoa, that guy looks a little different. Like, that's what I'm assuming you're going to come back and say based on a 33-pound weight gain. And if that's the truth, and if he continues that trajectory, I mean, it's like this right now. Like, the trajectory is not like, oh, we're coming along. No, it's not NATO. It's Jordan Washington. Like, this is where we're at right now. And if that's going to continue for the next month, there's going to be a real conversation on who's going to be getting the opportunities. I mean, that's going to be the truth. It's going to be Jordan Washington, or is it Amari Niblack, or is it Juan Davis? Like that. We kind of just been brushing him off to the side because it's a tight end and it's a freshman, but.
Well, he said some issue. Well, first of all, dude, the 33, dude, if I had a 33-pound weight gain, like, I think I would automatically catch like diabetes, dude. It's like, can you imagine how disgusting I would, like, can these guys can just put on 33 pounds and just still be able to move and be athletes and stuff like that? I'd probably be in a wheelchair. 33 extra pounds over the course of a few months. It's just, but that's insane. That's quite a sports nutrition department.
How much did you weigh when you were 18, Alex?
Oh, well, I mean, dude, I was like 265, 270. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, you were eating loaves of bread back then.
Yeah. Dude, it was a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk they told us to drink every night. I don't know about you.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I'm not sure that they get that same advice at Texas. Dude, no. But yeah, I don't even want to. Gosh, man, did you ever do that thing where you had to take like the ammonia towel and put it over your head, or take the sniffing salts in between reps and stuff?
I did sniffing salts during lifting just for the hell of it, but not ever during football.
Yep. All right. The thing he said about Jordan Washington. So basically, when he's talking about he was asked about his tight ends, and he says, "I'm fired up about all 3 of them." So that should tell you something, right? Juan, Gunner, Niblack is what he said. He said Juan first. Gunner, Juan, Niblack. He said no one knows Juan, but he's had a phenomenal offseason. He'll knock the crap out of you coming up A gap on counter. So what he was saying was, as far as with Juan Davis, he said he says the one knock on him is he has a little bit of a lack of length. And he also says that he never played tight end in high school, and this has been a kind of a challenge for him and a transition for him. And he's still going to have a little bit of a transition into seeing how he transitions to week in and week out game plans. But he's worked his butt off. He's self-made, and he's going to be a problem. Is what he said. He also said that Jordan Washington, it's going to be. He's a rising star, and he says if depth gets tested, he will play a role. So those were he said the main 3, and then just as we thought, Washington appears to have already usurped Spencer Shannon, Will Randall. I didn't hear one mention of those guys. Nary a word, or is that the way you say it? Nary,
right? I think that's right.
I think it's right. The chat will let us know if it's not. This is while we're here so he talked about the new punter, Michael Kern. I think it's Michael Kern, right? Michael Kern. He says he loves his build, loves that he's from St. Thomas Aquinas, really good tools, really athletic. He said he's really, Banks used to play punter, so he thinks about this stuff. He's really athletic with the way, he adjusts to the ball to catch it right from the snap and set himself up for whatever his punting motion is. These are all things that I don't know diddly squat about, right? But he says that all the stuff, just his ability to just get it off quick, very strong leg. But he says they're also 2 really good walk-ons. So look, he said with the punting game, he said that he's already told his staff that he's going to need patience. He's going to need 30 days of patience with these guys. He has 2 walk-ons. He has 1 freshman that he loves the tape on, loves everything about him, but he's not sure. He's like, you never know how these guys are going to transition. So he says that his patience is going to be tested a lot. I think there's a little good bit of openness from him about that, just saying that, I don't think he really knows what the punting is going to look like this year. It'll unfold in front of his eyes the same way that it unfolds in front of all of ours. One guy asked him, what on as the special teams coach and just as somebody that's a coordinator on the team, Sark talks so much about culture and who are some of the guys that have helped the culture sort of pass, from one year to the next. And he just answered immediately. He said Michael Taft and Mo Blackwell. he said it just like that. He gave the answer to those two guys. He said there's no better two guys in our program for the special teams portion of the game. They have attentiveness, the way they lead by example and verbally. They tell guys to get back in line. They say do it this way. They say redo this. Coaching guys on how we do it. All this stuff. He says those guys are phenomenal, and there's as good a guys as we've had, and they're in the mold of Keelan Robinson and of Schooler. He said that they're just those kinds of guys. They're going to go on to be those kinds of guys. So as we were talking about yesterday, Cody, to Michael Taft, future NFL special teamer, possibly. I think he might make a roster.
100%, 100%, Matt. But again, I don't think he's a bad football player at all. He's a ball hawk. That's what he is. But you trying to twist some narrative on me that I don't like Michael Taft. He's a dog, and
you don't think he stands a chance against Makuba?
I don't think he stands a chance against Makuba because when you're a coach back there, this guy's been literally already gotten draft grades as a top 100 player. It's just different. It's just levels. Like, you understand this. Like 3 years ago, Taft is the starter A1 day one steak sauce, but it's just different levels now. You go out, you get a guy out of the portal, it's a top 100 draft pick, you plug him in. Taft's going to play. He played 40% last year. You're probably going to play 25, 30% this year. Like, the reps are going to be there for a guy like that, but come on, what are we doing here?
This guy's saying, Uncle Mickey's saying 270. How tall are you? I'm 6 feet tall, man. But I was a 3-4 defensive end, man. I had the 2 gap.
Certified stump.
Yeah, dude. Okay. So punt return. He says he has confidence in what he's seen, but it's only been on tape from Bolden and Golden. He says they're very proven at the places that they were at, and he's got a lot of confidence in those guys. But he says it's based on tape. Thomas Quinn saying that he loves Taft, but he's not passing Makuba. Well, I just have to tell you, Thomas Quinn, it's not Taft that has to pass Makuba. It's Makuba that has to pass Taft.
Chill.
Yeah. But he says the other guys that are he said Jaden Blue, Isaiah Bond, Jonte Cook, DeAndre Moore, those are the other players that are going to be in the mix. He says it's a deep group, but dude, I feel like Bolden and Golden are the ones that they kind of look at right now, and they're just again pretty predictable. But it's I think that those two have the kind of inside track so far. Another thing about Bolden I thought was interesting, they asked him who could block or punt a field goal. And he said, man, it's like, you don't know. We got some of these new guys, some young guys with such twitch. And he said, but if I would have to take a guess, I think Silas Bolden has a chance to be like that because he's built like Keelan. He has that twitch and that redirect. There's just a lot of comparisons a lot of talk about Silas Bolden on special teams. A lot of special teams talk for Silas Bolden. I'm interested to see how this all plays out. Want to talk about defense?
I do, but I think we got to pay the bills first, and then I got a segment brought to you by somebody.
Texas beef traders. Look, this doesn't pay the bills. Do you know how my bills get paid from Texas beef traders? They get paid in meat. Oh. They get paid in meat. And look, I did some beef ribs yesterday. My kids actually had they got promoted yesterday at their jiu-jitsu place, which is right next to Texas beef traders. And our and our ceremony around here for any type of promotion is promotion pizza, right? So I have those beef ribs that I did last night. I'm throwing them back on the smoker again to kind of just get them reheated again tonight. I'm eating Texas Beef Traders tonight. And I'm eating meat with no vaccines in it, no weird cockamamie shots, none of these like steroids, no antibiotics, none of this stuff. Local meat from Mason, Texas. I want you guys to go to Texas Beef Traders. I want you to go in there. I want you to meet Darren. I want you to meet Shay. I want you to meet Dan. Let them give you a beer. Let them ask you if you're hungry, and then just say, yes, I am. And then just sit back and just see what happens. You're going to taste the best meat that you've ever had in your life. And guys, I wouldn't, I can't explain it. It's just, it's so good, and it's cheaper than the grocery store, and it's local, and you're supporting good people. And you're supporting local good farms. You get 10% off by telling them that Orange Blood sent you. And look, I understand not everybody can make it out to Lakeway, right? To me, it's making it into Lakeway. I have to drive into Lakeway. If I can drive in, you guys can drive out, right? But if you can't, just call them up, talk to Darren. Just say, Darren, I heard Alex told me about you. Cody told me about you. I want to get some of these steaks. I want to get some of this ground beef, some of these sausages. He'll just bring it to you. 10% off. He'll just bring it to you. Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com. I do not know what I would do without these guys. Texas Beef Traders. All right, Cody, what is it that you said that you wanted to do before we got to defense?
Before we get to defense, I got a segment we're gonna put into the show on Tuesday nights. We're gonna be adding a couple of segments throughout the week. And if you want to kind of get in on that, you can go over to Orange Bloods. You can get a new, you can tap in right here. You can see it right here. Go to orangebloods.com. Join OB24 60-day free trial. Tap in, and you can jump in the official.
Is that already started?
Football with Friends.
I didn't think that started until tomorrow. Is that already started? That's free.
I think it starts tomorrow, and it's 60 days right there. Join OB24 60-day free trial, and you can jump in the official Football with Friends thread. You can give us your cockamamie takes. We'll put them up on the show. We'll talk about them. But today, it's Quote of the Day Tuesday. Alex, I got a quote of the day that I found on Twitter, and I just want one sentence reaction from you. So personally, when I put stuff on the board,
all right. So that's the rule of the Tuesday game. It's a cockamamie Tuesday.
Yeah. Well,
and I only have one sentence. Okay.
One sentence, two sentences. Bend the rules. One bite. Everybody knows the rules. One sentence. Everybody knows the rules. Okay. All right. Quote of the day. Found this one on Twitter this morning. A lot of press conferences going around college football. This is Marcus Satterfield from Nebraska. Nebraska of all schools, right? We're not going to turn the ball over anymore. And if you turn it over, you're not going to play.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, I like this whole quote of the day thing. Did you make that graphic yourself, or did Tyler make that?
I made that graphic, son.
You made that thing? Nice.
Clean cut.
Well, let's say, look, Nebraska's not in our conference. Who is their quarterback this year again?
True freshman Dylan Raiola, a legacy pick.
Raiola. Yeah, that was a surprise that he ended up going there, right?
That's your OC. That's Kyle Flood saying that. What is your reaction to that?
Wait till Baxter fumbles, or wait till Quinn throws a pick. You're not going to play. What are you going to do? It's just like, come on. It's like, I don't know, man. I think that, look, what's his name? Marcus Satterfield.
Yes, Marcus Satterfield, the OC, co-OC, I should say, of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We're not going to turn the ball over anymore, period. And if you turn it over, you ain't going to play.
Come on. All right. Look, PK wants more turnovers. As I look in the chat, I see Hacker in the chat. Hacker, so good to see you, brother. Football with Friends is back, man. New time, brother. Good to see you, Money B. Great to see all you guys in the chat. Before we talk about defense here, let's make sure to thank Specs, because it is, of course, because of Specs that we can have the Specs chat line.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Do you have a look at the?
Yes.
He said, this guy's saying, bro, react. Quit asking. Cotton is saying, react. Quit. How can I just have questions about things. I'm an inquisitive person. I'm
That's
trying
who
to figure out
Alex
what
is.
it means.
Alex just likes to ask questions.
Well, I'm just asking questions. I'm just saying. Okay. What do you think? Do you have one biggest takeaway from PK?
Biggest takeaway from PK, and again, this is the one sheet that the other sheet with Flood, not so many notes. This one with PK, full. I had to create boxes on it, lines. I was like,
Man.
what? Okay,
PK wants to talk ball.
Number one, I think there's two things. Well, again, like I said, there's too many things. Let's just start here. He brought up defensive linemen that are on the roster already. Everybody knows about Collins and Vernon, but when the conversation began, I think the question was phrased as like, who are guys on the interior that you're looking for something from or that you expect something from? I believe it was how it was phrased. I didn't write down the question. I just wrote down the result. And he went Aaron Bryant, Jure Bledsoe, and then we got Lole came in, Savea came in, Norton, and then of course everybody knows Anthony Collins, Alfred Collins, and Vernon Broughton. And I just thought it was very interesting that he opened it with Aaron Bryant, goes to Jure, then goes to the transfer guys, and then comes back to the two starters, while also leaving out Sadir and so on. I just thought it was interesting. Aaron Bryant.
Oh, yeah. No mention of Sadir. No mention of Sadir. I just, hearing that in context, I kind of took that as saying, like, I think he was saying, the guys that we already have here, right? The depth we already have here, Aaron Bryant, Jure Bledsoe, and then, of course, the new guys coming in. And then he added the addendum at the end, and he's like, of course, everybody knows. Yeah. I mean, you guys already know Broughton and Collins. So,
do you think that says more about Bryant and Bledsoe being the first set of guys that aren't the transfers, or do you think it says more about where they are vis-a-vis the transfers?
I think that all that is going to be a battle that's yet to be played out. I think that all that's like everything with that defensive line depth and even one of those starting jobs is completely up for grabs. I think it's all up for grabs, dude. You tell me Aaron Bryant couldn't beat out Bill Norton for a job? You tell me Sadir Mitchell could? All these guys could reasonably beat each other out for a job, even all the way up to Vernon Broughton. I think Alfred Collins is the one guy there who nobody's going to physically beat out for a job.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
I think it's a bit of a mishmash, and it's going to be like, dude, they're gonna have to really figure it out. And we're gonna see tomorrow how they're starting it out initially. I can't believe that dude. The biggest thing I took away from this, dude, Jade Barron is probably gonna play corner, and Jalen Gilbo is. Dude, the way he talked about Jalen Gilbo was unlike anybody he talked about anybody else about. He just said Gilbo has had an unbelievable, outstanding offseason. Like all this stuff. He was asked later on, who's the guy who's been the biggest standout of the offseason? And he just answered Jalen Gilbo because he struggled last year. He's gotten back to where he was, all this stuff. Here's the thing. Gilbo plays nickel. And whenever he came in as a freshman, even I said, I had a whole call in that week of the defensive deep dig, and I said Jalen Gilbo has arrived. This kid, here he is. This dude is incredible, and he's been injured, all this stuff like that. And they're like, man, that's the good thing about Jade. When they asked about him, they say he could play corner, and we need to get our best 11 guys out there. And whenever they ask about Javion Cole, he's like, yeah, he's like, we'll have to see. Like the strength and conditioning coaches say he's been. What did they say about Jalen Cole? He said,
Jalen Cole, he's coming along. Strength coach gave us a plus. He's got to get his feet wet in the system.
Yeah, he's got to get his feet wet in the system. Oh, dude, do you know what that's getting your feet wet in the system? Do you know what that means to me with this staff? Javion, you're on third team to start fall.
Yeah.
The other guys have got their feet wet. I might have been wrong to say that he was going to be penciled in as. I honestly think that they're going to play some Jade Barron at corner probably tomorrow.
So tomorrow.
because it was Chip Brown. Somebody asked about the star position and like what that means, and he goes, "Well, that's between he said it's between Gilbo and Jade. He didn't say Jade and Gilbo, and he said Jade is going to play some corner too. Gilbo's had an unbelievable, outstanding offseason, getting his confidence back to where it was in his freshman season. And if Gilbo can if Gilbo can continue to step up, we can do some different things with Jade."
The interesting thing is also later on, he was asked about the cornerbacks, and he said, Manny, and then he said Holmes had a great offseason, and he skipped over Cole again in that context. So, like you said, third team, like if we're talking about it and we're breaking it down, how it was pretty much, and this is exactly why we opened the show. I think we opened the first 4 minutes, the first show that didn't exist. We opened up that one talking about
has that been deleted, Tyler? Please get it off.
The benefit of getting these opportunities with PK, with Flood once a year is because they're a lot different than how Sark gives us the same, after he gets into his mold of what he's going to talk about, every time we talk to Sark, it's pretty much the same thing in a different avenue. This time with PK, it's like, you got exactly what he thought. He's literally like, it's, the star position. Yeah, it's Jade versus Gilbo, but Jade is probably going to play cornerback. He's going to play. We want to have the best 11 players on the field. Best 11 players on the field tells us Gilbo's playing the star, Jade's playing field, Manny's playing boundary. Like, and then what? And then basically what he said later on was that Holmes had the better offseason. He didn't say anything really about Cole. Like he just said, man, so that means Barron, Holmes, Cole, right?
I just kind of think so. I could be totally wrong, man. He's talking an awful lot about Gilbo, and maybe it's not the maybe I'm just overreacting. Maybe he'll be a star. I mean, he's considered one of the best nickels. But dude, here's the thing: like, he probably wants to play. These guys want to play some corner. They want to show the NFL. Like, if you need me to play corner, I can play corner. Like,
where's the money at, Alex?
I could play nickel, and they're talking about how he could play. PK said he can play safety, he can play corner, he can play nickel. And what that does is that gives us the ability to put pressure on a bunch of guys as far as all this. So Thomas Quinn saying Gilbo must be a stud if they're going to likely move Barron to CB. Barron's a very good star, great instincts. And that's true, but he's also a good corner. Football Junkie saying Barron's not good and definitely not at corner. Football Junkie, man, like, there are NFL types that say that Jade Barron is the best nickel corner in the country coming into this season. So he's definitely good, and he's been. I could bring up the numbers that, like, and we're gonna have plenty of time to talk about these numbers throughout the course of the preseason and stuff like that. Today's about this, but Barron objectively has been better at corner than basically all these guys except for Manny Muhammad. And he just has. So that unless Kobe Black or one of these Javion Cole or one of these dudes who you haven't seen yet is better than him. And so I'm not sure how you could claim that, but you haven't seen those guys on the same field together.
One piece of context in this positional change and why it shouldn't surprise anybody that Jade, first off, came back. We heard the interview last week. He really didn't give us any inkling to why he came back other than I had the conversations and whatever. This is what Jade said 2 weeks ago at SEC Media Days. He goes, whatever decision I made was the right decision. I came back. That was the right decision. We heard that he was having 4th and 5th round draft grades in the 2024 draft. Sorry. That's the nickel position. That's the inside cornerback. Those guys don't get drafted till the 4th, 5th, 6th round. NFL contract stance, Taron Johnson, Kenny Moore are the highest paid nickelbacks. 18th and 19th overall at the cornerback position, $10 million. The top end of the cornerbacks, the outside guys, 2021. It's a whole different conversation as far as that goes. So I'm just going to tie that line and saying, like, he knows he wants to play in the NFL. He could have went out this last year, and he knows if he can establish himself on the outside, it's going to make him a lot more money in the long run. It's going to help this team in the short run. And overall, it's just going to make him a better player. And, quite frankly, they need him to go out there, at least for the time being. Maybe he only does it for the first 4 weeks until maybe it takes 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever, until Javion Cole is got his feet wet. But I think it makes 100% sense to see Jade move to the outside early.
And we don't know if he will. This is just us reading between the lines.
That's what he said.
Listen to this quote. He said he asked his outlook on the quarterback room. Not only did he say what I said earlier when I quoted him, he said on the cornerback room, a lot of good players that we have to see who's going to rise up and take the starting jobs. I feel good about all those guys. Manny had a really good year last year. I expect him to improve and become a and become a dominant corner. Jade, Cole, someone asked about Gavin Holmes. He's had a good offseason. They're all going to play. It's just a matter of who's most consistent.
And finding the best 11.
Jade, I mean,
he said Jade can play corner,
after
star,
Manny.
and safety.
Yeah. So it's just, something to keep in mind there. Did you take anything away from what he said about the edge guys?
I mean, a little bit. I took away, he said, from when we got here in 2020 to now, length, twitch, power. Obviously, he said Baron Sorrell was the leader in the room. He kind of walked through everybody. I thought that was interesting. He basically, to me, categorized everybody and was like, Baron's the leader. He's all business. And then he said, Trey and Colin, they just bring an entirely different element to that room. Colton Vasek, he knocks on the table. He goes, he's healthy.
Yeah.
Burke, he kind of explained as being pretty straightforward. He's like, Burke is different. He's very productive, and he's got great length that can be utilized in all these different situations. And then he said, Zine is a freshman. And then I think somebody in the audience, one of the media members goes, what about Finkley? And he goes, oh, yeah, Finkley's got some opportunity. Like, Finkley played last year.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me, those are like tiers of expectation. Leader, super studs, questions, freshman. I'm not going to say anything, but I mean, the writing felt like it was on the wall with the last guy that I listed.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the super chat, JWall321. We definitely appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much to everybody in the chat and all you guys. I don't know how many. I'm sure we have almost 100 viewers on YouTube right now. I'm sure there's tons of you guys on X and stuff, and we can't thank you enough for watching. If you could please just come over to YouTube and make sure you like the show, subscribe to the channel. We certainly would appreciate that. It makes a big, big difference for us. But we also love these super chats. Not to be negative, but didn't our backup QB torch this secondary in the spring game after they got torched all year? I mean, look, the spring game's a zero-sum game, and the quarterbacks went off, and it just is what it is. You know what PK said? Thank you for. I'll tell you this, Jay Wall. Do you want to hear what PK said? I'll give you this for your super chat. This is what PK said about the pass D breakdowns last year.
Oh, he said he was in violence with this,
dude. He didn't want to answer questions about the pass defense. He really didn't. I'm not sure that he thinks it was as big either. I don't know. I'm not sure he might not think it's as big. Here's what he said. He said, man, we gave up, the pass D with the breakdowns, we gave up yards. We had the ball thrown on us third most in the country. When teams throw the ball a lot, they're going to get yards. You'd like to get that down, but it's not the end all be all. We were 33rd in pass efficiency defense, maybe pass defense efficiency. I'm not sure what pass efficiency defense, which is respectable. He said we need to be a little tighter in coverage so we can create incompletions. Also, it's about affecting the quarterback with the rush and being able to change up the pre-snap looks and tackling. Those easy throws, you have to get them on the ground. So that goes along with what he was saying about, the biggest focus of this offseason has been block destruction across the board, across all positions. I don't know, Cody, if you want to talk about your experience like training block destruction, but I mean, what that is on a very simple block destruction is a set of tools that your coaches give you as a defensive player to get off blocks in different situations. That's basically what it is. But your block destruction drills for defensive linemen are going to be a whole lot different than your block destruction drills for defensive backs, simply because of the way that the angles at which and the power with which you're sort of attacked. But he says that that's fundamental to everything is their block destruction, and it's almost like he's saying it wasn't as much the schemes or what I kind of thought it was. OU, U of H, either breakdowns between the linebackers and the safeties in the OU game, or breakdowns between just failing to understand this kind of unexpected crossing route concept, these sort of pick routes that they were doing, failing to sort of recognize how you were getting beaten over and over and over again, this kind of stuff. Some of that stuff to me did feel schematic, right? It didn't feel like all that stuff was just caused by missed tackles, but it did feel like PK said that definitely the tackling was the thing. He said that they did a study last year. They had about an 80% efficiency rate on their tackling. He wants to get that up 5%, and he thinks that'll do a whole lot to getting the passing yards against them down. I was like, man, if we're coming back to tackling for all this, I'm not sure that that's the crack in the whole cookie on the whole problem from last year.
Some things I think are easier, sometimes not said, sometimes said in one sentence. For me, this one is digested in one fashion. You had insane pressure from the interior last year on the defensive line. And that's going to cause quarterbacks to roll out. It's going to cause quarterbacks to get rid of the ball much earlier. And they're going to throw the football a lot. And they're going to plan to know they need to throw football a lot because they can't run on you either. You can't run, you're going to throw, right? This year, I think it'll be a little bit different as far as that attack goes because it's going to be coming off the edge, lesser up the middle. I think you'd be more susceptible to giving up more in the run game and less of those expanded plays where they get out of the pocket and do throw the football downfield, if that all makes sense. Well, I don't think the defensive backfield was nearly as bad as people are giving it credit for. I understand the super chat from Jay Wall. He says, come on, Cody, we got smoked. I understand it coming from the spring game too and having that be a worry. But I will say very few times will you have to go against a projected top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Very few times will you have to go against wide receiver rooms that have multiple dudes that can run under 4.4. Like, I know you're in the SEC. It's going to be upper into that conversation of a battle. But in the context of all of this stuff, whether it be last year with how that defense was built from the inside out and teams couldn't run, they had to throw, or was it in the spring ball when you're literally playing against Arch Manning with some insane talents on the outside, it's all going to come out in the wash, and the talent's going to rise this year. I don't think it's going to be a question. The coaches obviously don't think it's a question because they didn't really bring it up as a worry. I think the worry this year is going to be more about run defense. So I get the super chat, and Jay Wall comes back. He goes, come on, Cody, we got smoked last year. Of course we did. But guess what? Texas went 12-2, and they didn't get smoked by anybody. They were all good games. Yes, the Washington game is the one that leaves everyone's sour taste in their mouth. But again, you're talking about Jalen McMillan, who's going to be starting for Tampa Bay. You're talking about Roma Dunze, who's going to be starting for Chicago. You're talking about Jalen Polk, who's going to be starting for the Patriots. And you're talking about Michael Penix, who's a top 10 pick. It's a pretty good team. You're not going to get that every single week. So
and Delp and Westover.
See what I mean? It's like, right. So I 100% understand the worry, but you also have to take into context. Manny Muhammad's another year older. They bring in Javion Cole. They bring back Jahdae Barron, who could have went to the NFL. They bring in Makuba, who's a top 100 player. They trust Taft. They trust Will. Like, this is a very good defensive backfield that just needs the opportunity to really show and shine.
Like I said yesterday, if they're not better than this year, it's like they're good enough to be good. If they're not better, people are getting fired. Multiple people are getting fired. And it's just speaking of Taft, I guess we could probably end it with this, Cody, unless there's anything else you wanted to get to. He was asked about the safety room. He says we like to play a lot of guys. There's a lot of good options we have back there. Williams. Taft is back. Who am I missing? He says. Makuba. Jelani was a freshman last year. He's making strides. So he lists Williams and Taft. Then he asked, "Who am I missing?" Oh, Makuba. I'm just saying, Cody. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. I think it's Makuba that needs to win that job.
You're not wrong.
We'll see, dude. But like, it's like Jay Wall saying, I hope you guys are right. You really do. You don't need to look at the preseason all SEC teams. What, Kelvin Banks was first team? Was he the only first team guy?
Yeah. Second team defense. It was 3.
And you look at the second team defense. You have 3 DBs from Texas. Like, dude, they're gonna have to be better. And if they're not better, it's time for a big change. All right, it's time for a big change in our coverage here at Orange Bloods. Again, we'll have that big sale tomorrow. Cody, can you put that thing back up so we can just show everybody? I'm not sure if it's going to go live tonight, or you can try it, but I mean, you get 60 days free on Orange Bloods with using that QR code. You can use join OB24 60-day free trial. If you don't like it, you can just quit. You know, you're gonna
get Anwar's got his 30 nuggets up tonight. Alex, I think you can still go catch his 8 thoughts from the weekend still tonight.
I'll have a
And-
complete, and then just over the course of the next 3 days, we'll have complete breakdowns of everything you see at practice. You'll be getting it here as well, but just everything that we've seen, and it'll be all, it'll be there for your viewing pleasure on Orange Bloods, along with all the other great content from all the great contributors, Cody and Travis and Jason's recruiting updates. It's like, man, there's too much to even read. So if you're into this stuff, make sure and check out orangebloods.com. Thanks so much to the chat, man, for being here with us today. Thanks for putting up with our technical difficulties earlier. Thanks to Tyler for eventually having to go back and give us a new thumbnail and take care of our for our amateur business here. But look, man, football with friends. We're always here among friends. It's always fun as hell. Thanks so much to Texas Beef Traders for sponsoring the show, and for Specs, for Cody.